Hi, good day. Welcome to Demo 01 on Information Management Laboratory. So on this Demo 01, we will be creating a database. All right, so let's start. Now for the topic outline of this video lecture, so we will be creating a database. Okay, we will be covering and discussing data types. I'm going to demonstrate on how to create table and demonstrate on how to add data to a table. Okay, so for the objectives of this video lecture, so at the end of this video lecture, you should be able to create a database on Microsoft Access. So whatever version you have there on your computer, you should be able to create one. All right. Next is to create a table inside a database using a Datasheet View. Okay, or to create a table inside a database using a design view. And then we will be adding data on your database created. Okay, so let's start. So creating a database. On this video demo, we will be covering the basic process of starting Access and creating a database. This video will also explain how to build a database from the scratch. So let's start with the demo. Okay. So to open a Microsoft Access, you just have to click on your Start button, right, and type in Access. Okay. So in here, we have an application installed, and this is part of my Microsoft Office suite. Okay. So whatever version you have on your computer, you can use that. Okay. So let me click on Access 2013. Okay. And that would lead me to the welcome. Okay. Welcome form. So sometimes database requirements can be so specific that data and modifying the existing templates requires more work than just creating a database from the scratch. So in such case, we make use of a blank database here. Okay, so your Microsoft Access has a lot of templates to choose from. So depending on what type of database you're looking at or what type of database you're planning to create, so you just have to search and look for the applicable database or template. Okay, but then the course of this demo or video lecture is that we will be creating a database from the scratch. Okay, so therefore, we have to go ahead and click on blank desktop database. Okay. Now, next is, so selecting the blank desktop database, so it will prompt you to enter your database name. So let's go ahead and say this is my database. Okay. Let's say this is my first database. Okay. So by default, your database will be saved on Drive C users 1IT document. So this is where, or this is my default user here. So it will be saved on documents. All right. So you just have to go ahead and click create. Okay. So Access will create a new blank database and will open up a table, which is also completely blank as what you see here on your screen. So we have successfully created our first database and we name it My First DB. All right. So let's close this and go back to our PowerPoint. Okay. So next is Microsoft Access data types. So before we move on with the next demo, okay, so let us discuss first the different data types supported by Microsoft Access. Okay. So for the data types, MS Access supports different types of data, each with specific purpose. So the data type determines the kind of values the user can store in any given field. So each field can store data consisting of only a single data type. Okay, so every field in a table has properties, and these properties define the field's characteristics and behavior. So the most important property of a field is its data type. So a field's data type determines what kind of data it can store. All right. So just like in programming, when you define variable, you have a data type on it. Okay. So for instance, if I'm going to declare a variable age, which refers to the age of a user, so I have to declare it as int or integer or maybe double. Okay. So each data in the field has a corresponding data type. All right. Okay. So here are some of the most common data types you will find and we can use in Microsoft Access database. Okay, so the first one is short text. Okay, short text is up to 255 characters in size. So short text includes text or combinations of text and numbers, including numbers that do not require calculations, like phone numbers. Okay, so if you want to ask users about phone numbers, then you could use short text as a data type. Okay, so another is long text. So lengthy text or combinations of text and numbers. So the size is up to 63,999 characters. All right. You also have numeric data used in mathematical calculations. Okay, so like 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 bytes, 16 bytes if set to replication ID. Okay, so you also have data type specifically for date and time. Okay, so date and time values for the years 100 through 9,999. And the size is 8 bytes. Okay, so these are the first 4 data type that we can use when we create a field in Microsoft Access. All right, so the next is currency. Okay, currency size is 8 bytes. So currency values and numeric data used in mathematical calculations involving data with 1 to 4 decimal places. So basically, if we're talking about money, okay, if we're talking about the amount of money, so we have to use the data type currency. All right. You also have auto number. Okay. This is a unique incremented by one number or random numbers assigned by Microsoft Access. So whenever a new record is added to a table. Okay. And the size of this one is 4 bytes or 16 bytes if set to replication ID. Okay. So the last one is yes or no. Okay. So yes and no values and fields that contain only 1 or 2 values. So something like Boolean in programming. So yes or no, true or false, on and off. And the size is 1 bit. Okay, so if you use previous versions of Microsoft Access, you will notice a difference for 2 of those data types. In Access 2013, we now have 2 data types, short text and long text. In previous versions of Access, these data types were called text and memo. Okay, so the text field is referred to as the short text, and your memo field is now called long text. Okay, so that is from Access 2013 and up. All right, so next, Microsoft Access also supports other data types. This includes attachment. Okay, so when you say attachment, these are files such as digital photos. Multiple files can be attached per record. So this data type is not available on the earlier versions of Access. Okay, and the size of that attachment is up to 2 gig. Okay, so next is the OLE objects. OLE objects can store pictures, audio, video, and other blobs or binary large objects. And the size is up to about 2 gig. Okay, so next is hyperlink. Okay, so just like Microsoft Word or Microsoft PowerPoint. So you've got a hyperlink here or on that application. Okay, so hyperlink is a text or combinations of texts and numbers stored as text and used as hyperlink address for a certain URL or website. Okay, so the size is up to 8,192. Each part of a hyperlink data type can obtain up to 2048 characters. All right. So next is you also have the lookup wizard. Okay. So the lookup wizard entry in the data type column in the design view is not actually a data type. So when you choose this entry, a wizard starts to help you define either a simple or complex lookup field. So a simple lookup field uses the contents of another table or a value list to validate the contents of a single value per row. A complex lookup field allows you to store multiple values of the same data type in each row. Okay, so the size would be dependent on the data type of the lookup field. Okay, so next is calculated. You can create an expression that uses data from one or more fields. So you can designate different result data types from the expression. So you can create an expression that uses a data type from one or more fields. You can designate different results data types from the expression. Okay, so we will be using these data types later on in our demonstration. So for now, let's move on to the next one. All right, so let's talk about Microsoft Access tables. Okay, so what is a table? Basically, in a database, okay, so a database is a collection of tables which store data, as what you see on your screen. By themselves, tables look like Excel spreadsheets. So they have rows and columns filled with information. Okay, so that's where the similarity ends. Okay, so in order to work with a database, don't think of a table as an array of rows and columns, but as a group of records appearing in a rows. Okay, so each record is a unique item. So in our example here, okay, so in a table of DVDs, for example, each record would be a DVD title. Okay, so like Jurassic Park, Dr. Zhivago, and so on. Okay, so with this one, each record is subdivided into fields. Each field is a piece of information about that item. So the DVD Jurassic Park, okay, would have fields for title, right, rating, running time, director, and year release. So this column here is what you call field. Okay? So while other title of the DVD might be, say, Dr. Zhivago. Okay? So also in here, if you will observe, we have what you call a DVD primary key. Okay? So what is that primary key? Okay? So usually, each record has a primary key, which is a numerical unique identifier. Okay? So in this table, when you say 3, that pertains to Star Wars. So each record should have a primary key. So we will be talking about primary key more on the succeeding videos on the lecture. All right? So throughout the rest of the database, the record will usually be referred to simply as by its primary key. Okay? So in a database systems, basically this communicates only via primary key, and the primary key is the main carrier of the record. Okay? So next. So when you create a database, you store your data in tables. Okay? So because other database objects depend so heavily on tables, you should always start your design of a database by creating all of its tables and then creating any other object. Okay? So before you create tables, you have to carefully consider your requirements and determine all the tables that you need, because it's very hard to add tables when you are in progress. All right? Next. So there are two ways to create a table in Microsoft Access. So the default is the datasheet table. Okay, so what is a datasheet table and how does it look like? So a datasheet view table, okay, displays the table as a grid, as what you see here on your screen. The fields are displayed as columns and the records are displayed as rows. Okay, so the field names are listed as the column header. So datasheet view shows the data in the database. It also allows you to enter and edit the data. It does not let you change the format of the database, other than minor changes such as displayed columns widths. Okay, so the datasheet view displays the data. If this table had data, it would be displayed on these cells. Okay, so just like Microsoft Excel, right? So in a datasheet view, if you want to find out a field's data type, you need to select that field, then select the Fields tab on the ribbon. Okay, the field's data type and other properties will be listed on the right side of the ribbon. So I'm going to demonstrate that later on. Okay, so for now, let's have an example here. Okay, so assuming that you are given this information and a table that you need to create on a database. So let us try and create the first table that will store the basic contact information concerning the employees as shown on this table. Okay, so on this table we have how many fields? So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we have 10 fields and the data type of each field is indicated on the right via the data type header. Okay, so let's go back to our Microsoft Access and let us create a table using a datasheet view. Okay, so let me launch my Microsoft Access. We named it My First DB. Okay, now to create a table here, okay, so by default we are using a datasheet view. So we have two views here. It's either a datasheet view or a design view. So for now, let's concentrate on the datasheet view. Okay, so how do we add data? Okay, or how do we add table on datasheet view? So let me minimize this Microsoft Access so that we can see the field name and the data type. Okay. Okay, so let's start. So to create a table, okay, so by default, it has created a table for us and it's an empty table. Okay, so you just have to click on the ID here. So by default, the name is table 1, but we can save it after we put some information or fields, okay, on this table. Okay, so let us now go to the field tab, okay, and you will see that it is automatically created. So ID, okay, which is an auto number, act as a unique identifier and is the primary key for this table. So every table has or should have a primary key. And by default, Microsoft Access has assigned that. And we can further change it if you want to. Okay? So the ID field here has already been created. And we now want to rename it to suit our conditions. So this is an employee table. And this will be the unique identifier for the employees, right? So based on our table here, okay, so the employee ID is the unique identifier for our employee. Okay, so we could go ahead and click on the name and caption. Okay, so select this, and in there you'll see name and caption. Okay, so highlight the ID, name and caption. So let's click on this one. All right, so that is employee ID. All right, so let's type in the name, employee, okay, ID. All right, so make sure the name is one word. Caption, let's say this is employee ID. Okay, Description, for instance, number created automatically. Automatically. All right. So let me just change this. And then hit OK. So if you'll observe, we have changed the ID to our custom employee ID. Okay. And the next thing is the data type is auto number. Okay. So the data type is auto number. So how do we click on that? So click on so take note, this is automatically, and that is in auto number. All right. So next is we need to create the first name. Okay. So click here, click to add columns or field. Okay. And the data type there is short text. All right. So short text, the field name is first name. So go ahead and type first name. All right. So we're done. Okay. So we have successfully created first name as short text. So the next is last name as short text. So click here, short text. Let's rename the field 1 as last name. So it's easier, right? Enter. Okay. So next is address 1. So click add here. Address 1 is short text also. We'll have address 1. All right. Next, you've got address 2. So short text. Click here, short text or short text address 2. Okay, enter. So we have created fields here. So next, after address 2 is city as short text. So all of the succeeding field name, data type is short text. Okay, so let's do it. So next is city. So click short text. This is city. Right? So next is state. Short text, state. Okay. Next is zip. Okay, a short text also. We've got zip here for the zip code. Okay, so we have successfully added it. Next is phone and phone type. All right. So short text for phone. And the last one, short text for phone type. Okay, so just ensure your field name is just a one word. Okay. All right. So we have successfully added and created a table inside our database named MyFirstDB. So let's go ahead and save the table. So to save the table, okay, so right click here on the table 1 and then hit save. Okay. So you can name the table as, say, employee. Okay. Or usually we have the naming convention. Okay. So if it is a table, we denote it is as TBL. Okay. So TBL is for table and then employee. Okay. So, but then you could simply use employee. But in Microsoft Access, if it is a table, we use TBL. Okay, so because we have a lot of objects in Microsoft Access to denote that this is a table. All right. So for now, let me save this as TBL employee. Okay, and then hit OK. Okay, so if you will observe here, we have here the TBL employee. All right. So let's close this. So we're done adding table on our first database and we name it TBL employee. Okay. Next. Okay, so let's talk about design view. Okay, so by default, we have created a table using a datasheet view. Okay, now let's do it in design view. So let's discuss first what design view is. So design view doesn't display any data. Therefore, there's more space available to display other settings. Okay, So in design view, the fields are listed vertically. They are listed above and below each other as opposed to side by side in datasheet view. So whatever output you have in the datasheet view, you have the same output on the design view. It's just that you have the options whether in designing a table to use a design view or to use a datasheet view. Okay, and here's the difference. In a datasheet view, it's just like Microsoft Excel, right? So you've got the header and then you've got the data there. Now in design view, instead, the fields are displayed, okay, next to each other from top to bottom instead of side by side. Okay? Now, design view allows you to create or change the table form or other database objects and configure the fields. In design view, you can see the data type listed next to each field as what you have here. Okay, so for instance, you'll have here genre, short text. Okay, unlike in datasheet view, before you create a field, you have to define first the data type. Okay, so the way design view work is when you click on the field in the top of the frame, the bottom frame displays the properties of that field. So you can then change these properties as required. Okay. So as we already have created one table using a datasheet view, okay, so we will now create another table using a table design view. So we will be creating the following fields in this table. Okay, so this table will store some of the information for instance, various book projects. Okay, and we are given this table to be created on our My First DB. Okay, so let's do the demonstration. So same, I guess we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 fields. Okay, these are the field name, and we have here the data type. All right, so let's move on to the demo. So let me open again my Microsoft Access here. Okay, and continue with our demonstration. All right, so we have successfully created using datasheet view. Let me go to design view here. So click on view and then highlight and select design view. Okay, so this is how it looked like for a design view. Okay, so the table here is okay. So this is the same one with the demo earlier. So we have to create another table. So to create another table, click on create. All right, and then table design or table. Okay, so just have to change the view there. So, but then let's click on the table design. Okay, on the table design, so we have created table 1 here, and the view is design view. This is how it looked like in design view. All right. Okay. So every table should have a primary key, as mentioned earlier. Okay. So let's do it. Referring to the table. So the first one, the field name is project ID. So let's go ahead and type it in. We've got project ID here. Okay. So project ID, data type, set it to auto number. Okay. So because this will be used as the primary key later on. Okay. So if you will observe here, let me maximize the window here. Okay. When you choose the auto number, so there are other properties that you can edit. Okay, so for now, we just have to create a table using a design view. So we will be covering this on the succeeding videos. All right. Okay, so let's minimize this so that we can see the table given. So the next one is project name as short text. Okay, so let's go ahead and type in project name here. Got project name. All right, and the data type is short text. So click here, it's short text, 255 characters. Okay, so unlike in the datasheet view, in the design view, you can see the parameters or other attributes of that data type. Okay, so for now, let's just go ahead and add this field name into our table. So the rest would be short text. Okay, so for the next field name. Okay, so we're done with this. Okay, next is, where is it? Maximize this. Okay, so the next one is, okay, so managing director as short text. So bear with me, I have a small screen here. All right, so managing director. Mhm. Managing director. Sorry, managing editor. Managing editor. And it is also a short text. Okay, next is author. Short text also. P status. What is P status? P status is also a short text. So contract as attachment. Next. Contract as attachment. Okay, so the default is short text. Okay, click on the drop down and then attachment. You'll have attachment there. Okay. Next is project start as date. So project start as date. Okay, so date and time. Next is project end as date and time also. We got project end using data type, date and time. All right. So next is budget as currency. Okay, maximize this. Get budget. Okay, and this is as currency. All right. So the last one is project notes as long text. Okay. So maybe it's a comment. No? So project notes. Is that with S? All right. And project note or notes is as long text. All right. So we're done. Okay, so we have now successfully added the field name and defined its corresponding data type. Okay, so same thing with what we did on the datasheet view. We could go ahead and save the table. So again, the default name is table 1, table 2, table 3, and so on if you fail to change it. Okay, so we are going to save this. To save it as a table, so right click on the table name, which is table 1, and then hit save. Okay, let's name it, say TBL. Okay, TBL, say what we call it, project, maybe. Okay, TBL project. But take note, we failed to indicate the primary key. So we don't have yet the primary key here. And we want this project ID become our primary key. So you just have to click or highlight the project ID and then primary key there. So if you will observe, it has now a key there. Okay, so we're done. We already have defined the primary key. Let's go ahead and save it. So save. Okay, so this is TBL or table and then projects. Okay, it's okay. So we have now here added successfully 2 tables on our My First DB. Okay, so the first table was created using this datasheet view, and the second table was created using a design view. So you can always go ahead and change from one view to another. For instance, this table here, which is TBL projects, was created using a design view. And if you want to see it on the datasheet view, so it will be presented in sort of rows and columns, just like in Microsoft Excel. Okay. So same thing with the employee. Okay. So if we change to Datasheet View, so you'll have it in sort of Microsoft Excel form. All right. So you could always go ahead and shift from one view to another. So wherever and whenever it is convenient to you. Okay. So for now, we have successfully created two tables. Okay. So using a Datasheet View and a design view. Okay. All right. Next. Okay. So let's add data to our database. Okay. So adding data to a database, so to view, change, insert, or delete data in a table within Access, you can use the table's datasheet view. Okay. So take note that in the previous section, we talked about the datasheet view and the design view. So if you want to add data directly to a table on a database, make sure you are on a datasheet view. Okay. So a datasheet view is a simple way to look at your data in rows and columns without any special formatting. Okay. So whenever you create a new web table, Access automatically creates two views that you can start using immediately for data and okay, table open in a datasheet view resembles in Excel or an Excel worksheet. So if you can type or paste data into one or more fields. Okay. So an Access database is not a file in the same sense as Microsoft Word document or Microsoft Office PowerPoint are. Okay. Instead, an Access database is a collection of objects like tables, forms, reports, queries that must work together for a database to function properly. So we have now created two tables with all the fields and the field properties necessary in our database. Okay. So you do not need to explicitly save your data. Access commits your changes to the table when you move the cursor to a new field in the same row or when you move the cursor to another row. So by default, the fields in Access database are set to accept a specific type of data, such as text or numbers. So you must enter the type of data the field is set to accept. So if you don't, Access displays an error message. Okay, so let us add some data into our tables by opening the Access database we have just created. Okay, so let's have the demonstration here. Let me open again my Microsoft Access. Okay, my first DB, and we are going to add data to it. Okay, so let me just use the TBL employee here. Okay, so again, we have to change view. Okay, just make sure your TBL employee is highlighted and then go ahead and click on Datasheet View. So we could add data directly in here. For example, let's say the first name was Rodrigo. Okay, Rodrigo Duterte. Address, say Davao City. Okay, address to Manila. So he's living in Malacanang, right? City. So okay, so city is also Manila. Okay, so she'll have this. All right. State is NCR, for instance. Okay. Zip code, say that is 1234. Phone number, we don't have formatting yet. So let's say we have here 0917, okay, 1234567. Okay. Phone type, say this is an iPhone. No, Phone type is, say, landline. Just kidding. All right. Okay. So we have successfully added our first record, which is Rodrigo Duterte. Okay. So let's add another one. Let's say this is Aquino. First name is Benigno Simeon. All right. Last name is Aquino. Okay. So address one, say that's Tarlac. Is from Tarlac City. Okay. Address two is Manila. Or let's say this one is QC. Quezon City. And for instance, he's now living in Makati. He also lives in Makati City, for instance. Okay. State is NCR. Zip code is, say, 5678. Let's say phone number is 0918-123-4567. Okay, and this is, for instance, cellular. See? So that's how easy it is to add data to our table in a database. So you don't have to save it because it's automatically saved. All right, as you move from one field to another, so it is saved or stored. Okay, so what you're storing here is the database itself. Okay, go ahead and click save here for now. Storing or saving the table. Okay, so what if we deleted an entry? Okay, you cannot delete just a simple say you want to delete this. Okay, so you can also delete, because when you delete the Tarlac City, it will not delete the entire record. Okay, so it will just delete Tarlac City. Okay, like that one. So but then if your intention is to delete the entire record, just have to click here, right? And then you can have delete record. Okay, so you are about to delete one record. If you click yes, you won't be able to undo this delete operation. Are you sure you want to delete this record? Yes. Okay, so that's it. That's how simple it is to add data to a database. But on the advanced database systems, okay, so on your other course, since this is just an introductory, our main objective here is just to manage the information. Okay, so instead of directly adding data into a table, we could add data using forms. Okay, so we will be dealing with that later on this or on the other video. So for now, we have successfully added data to a table. Okay, so by typing directly the fields, okay, onto the table, or the records onto each table. Okay, so that's it. So we have reached the end of this demo. Okay, so thank you for watching and listening. Have a great day. See you on the next video.